Okay, so we're going to talk about how to be able to make thick, jelly-like hand sanitizer. So just like Germ-X, more of a thicker style of hand sanitizer is what we're going to do in this tutorial. As you can see, this is a pretty jelly style hand sanitizer that I made here. I just used this from some soap bottle that I bought for $1. Or at Big Lots, but obviously you can hold quite a bit in there. Looks just like Germ-X. Actually put this one in the refrigerator just to keep it cool, keep it from potentially evaporating, but as you can see, it's very jelly type. So how did I make it? Well, first thing is that my recommendation of things not to use: aloe vera gel. Aloe vera gel absolutely does not work in trying to be able to make effective hand sanitizer that is going to be able to truly disinfect from things like influenza or coronavirus, common cold. This mixed in with alcohol is not going to leave the consistency that you see with the jelly style in that. Once you mix the alcohol, most of the time they say like 2/3 alcohol and 1/3 aloe vera juice. What you end up having is a very liquidy aloe vera, because it only takes up about 1/3 of the recipe. So this is basically what it looks like. So I started adding more aloe vera and getting it a little bit thicker, but not much, so it doesn't look at all like that consistency. So to be able to get 2/3 alcohol and 1/3 aloe vera, you're not going to get a gel type whatsoever. I mixed that up real thoroughly. I got this from the Dollar General. Just simply put it in here, snap down the sides, had the aloe vera, had the 2/3 alcohol, 1/3 aloe vera, shook it all up, just as hard as I could possibly shake it when it was all snapped down, and that was the result, is just having this very liquidy style. That doesn't work. If you want to end up having truly gel type like this style, there's a better way to go about it. Instead, to be able to make hand sanitizer that's going to be more of the gel type that you want to make, is to have something like Astrogel, which is basically motion lotion, personal lubricant, female lubricant, sex lubricant, however you want to say it. It's a gel type, and mix it with either 91% isopropyl alcohol, or have something like Everclear, which I don't know if I legally can put the actual name on there, but this is basically grain alcohol, Everclear, 95% alcohol by volume. So isopropyl alcohol or grain alcohol, that's what you want. 190 proof is basically 95% pure alcohol, or proof alcohol I should say, not pure. So what you want to do is that you're going to end up mixing it 3/4 alcohol, 1/4 glycerin, which is the Astroglide. So when you have the 3/4 alcohol and 1/4 glycerin, or the Astroglide, then the result of it, the percentage of alcohol, even if it's 95%, which the Everclear was, you'll still get 71.25%. So that's perfect. So if we end up taking, now this Astroglide is 4 ounces, and so basically what we're going to end up having is we're going to have 12 ounces of alcohol and 4 ounces of Astroglide. So that ends up being with a ratio of 3/4 to 1/4. So that makes a total of 16 ounces. So just buying one Astroglide, which you can get at Walgreens or the pharmacy, some grocery stores happen to have it. Between the two of them, you're going to be able to end up making a total of 16 ounces. So the best way to do it is to simply get like an empty Mountain Dew container or Pepsi container, Coke, whatever, because these are 20 ounces. So then you'll have a little extra space at the top once you get it filled up, and just tighten the top and just shake, shake, shake. Shake it until you can't shake it anymore, every angle you can possibly do, and then you're going to be able to end up getting this consistency just like that to be able to make some hand sanitizer that is more of what some of you may be looking for. Now, aside from, obviously, since you're going to end up having the 71.25% alcohol by the time those two are added together, you actually have to have at least 60% alcohol. So if you really wanted to, based on CDC's recommendations, another thing that also helps kill like the coronavirus is hydrogen peroxide. Now, I've taken microbiology class, but I'm not 110% certain on how hydrogen peroxide, because once it breaks down, it's a bit acidic, but it doesn't have exactly the same properties as isopropyl alcohol or grain alcohol. But a few drops of that, you could probably add, like, in a 16-ounce bottle, maybe like 10 drops of hydrogen peroxide, and you'd still end up having well over 60% of the total volume still being alcohol. If you decided that you wanted to end up adding some hydrogen peroxide, which is totally optional, just kind of like an additional thing, but obviously adding hydrogen peroxide will make the consistency of the end result of this hand sanitizer a little bit more liquidy. But I ended up using just a dropper, and that's the best way I believe, to be able to add that extra 10 drops of hydrogen peroxide, because you really don't need much in a 16-ounce container of this mixture. Now, a couple of things that you don't want to end up adding to your hand sanitizer that we're going to be making is you do not want to end up adding Clorox or Dawn. Sometimes I end up hearing people that end up putting up posts or videos on YouTube, and they say, oh, add a little bit of Dawn or add some Clorox. Clorox, definitely no. You don't want to add any Clorox to a consistency that has hydrogen peroxide in it or any type of alcohol. That can be very dangerous. It can cause some chemical reactions that would be very bad. So that is totally out. Dawn, the biggest problem with Dawn is that if you're going to end up having hand sanitizer and you add something like soap to it, you're out and about, you've got your hand sanitizer, you spray it on you pump it onto your hands, and now you're going to have a gooey mess on your hands, even in small amounts. Even if you only added a few drops to the whole batch of your recipe, I just highly do not recommend putting any type of soap whatsoever in with your hand sanitizer mixture. So stick with the basics. So basically, the glycerin, the gel, like the Astroglide, and then your alcohol, at least 91%, and totally optional, the hydrogen peroxide, like 10 drops is pretty much max, is all you really need. You don't need a lot of hydrogen peroxide. So let's make up our batch. So the Astroglide, this is how it is. It's quite sticky. Perfect consistency. That's exactly what you're going to want if you want to end up having a consistency of something about like this. So that's what we're going to be adding, the 4 ounces of that to our bottle here. So I'm just going to start pumping this into here until it's completely empty. A little time-lapse photography, and we'll speed right up and get this emptied out into the container. All right, I really had to squeeze it, especially at the tail end, to be able to press out the rest of this, to be able to get pretty much the entire 4 ounces. Obviously, I could probably just cut it open and scoop out anything that may be left to make sure I truly got the full 4 ounces in there. All right, I have here 8 ounces. So obviously I'm just going to be filling this up and then adding just another 4 ounces on top of that into the Mountain Dew bottle. And this is our Everclear 95% alcohol. So it's just a little handy dandy little funnel I'm going to put in there so I can just drop in that alcohol. Alright, so I've got the 4 ounces of Astro Glide personal lubricant that has been added in there, and then I've got the 12 ounces of Everclear alcohol, so the 3/4 alcohol, 1/4 glycerin. So just not the same cover, but we'll just shake this up. And it's going to take a fair amount of shaking. But look at, already the consistency is starting to turn into the gel. So, as you can see, it's getting closer to what we want here with this. So as you can see, we're pretty much already there. I'm not going to end up adding the hydrogen peroxide because it's totally optional in my opinion. Most hand sanitizers don't have hydrogen peroxide, but since hydrogen peroxide is just one thing that the CDC suggests, if I remember correctly, you can look at the CDC for the hand sanitizer. They make it in a very, very large batch, a lot larger than 16 ounces. So, but from what I recall, I think that was even an optional thing. So there's my gel. Now, one way that I end up finding out on how well the consistency is I put a little bit on my finger and just put it on like just a countertop, and I just look at it about as close as I can to the angle. There it is. It's burning. See it burning? That little blue flame. And then it finally just went out. That's how I know that my hand sanitizer is good. If it burns for a very nice, slow little burn. If you've got a lot of alcohol in it, it'll flame up really high, and sometimes it'll even have like a non-blue cap to the flame. That usually means that it has more alcohol than it has necessarily glycerin or anything else added to it. So some other little side note recommendations, aside from Everclear, there's also another brand that's called Graves. Graves is also well known, and it comes in 2 different grain alcohols. This one happens to be the 151 proof, which is 75.5%. If you use something like this, you're going to want to end up using it solely as it is. I mean, you could add maybe a teeny tiny few little drips of glycerin, or you could add maybe a tiny bit of hydrogen peroxide to a spray bottle like this. This is a fine mist. And I actually, that's one way you could have a hand sanitizer that is more of a liquid style. I've actually ended up having the 190 proof, and I have added 3/4 of the 190 proof and added either some 1/3 hydrogen peroxide, or another thing which is good that is very well known in cleaning is just regular white vinegar. So 1/3 white vinegar along with 190 proof grain alcohol or 91 proof isopropanol. So if it's 3/4 of that, you still have the 71.25% alcohol. Put it in a small spray bottle with, the vinegar, the hydrogen peroxide. It's great for just, if you want to end up having that's more of something of a liquid style, depending upon the size of the bottle. This is actually what I ended up doing. Is a lot of people are saying, well, how do you sanitize your face mask? Now this is just a dust mask, but whatever type of mask that you happen to have. Obviously, if you're wearing a mask, there's a very high probability if you're around somebody who has the flu or the coronavirus that you may end up getting the virus on the outside of the mask. So once you're, if you're planning on wearing a mask, you should certainly wash your hands or disinfect your hands before putting your mask on. And then once you're done wearing your mask, you should clean it. And so carefully taking it off, but making sure that your hands are clean first before you take it off or put it on. And what I do for cleaning it, there's a lot of recommendations, and I know that a lot of hospitals now are using a mist style of hydrogen peroxide to disinfect their masks. I think what is quicker and just as effective for most people is simply to end up having, because you can't really do necessarily a mist, controlled mist like they have in the mechanics that they use at the hospitals, but I just take this 75.5% alcohol, or this 151 proof grain alcohol, and I just simply put it in a spray bottle like this, and I just spray it, spray the strings, spray one side, let it dry, flip it over, spray the inside, and what I usually do is I just leave it in my car. A lot of like coronaviruses and many viruses in general will die by just sun exposure. So, it doesn't have to be a warm sunny day. It doesn't have to be a sunny day at all. Basically, sunlight, whether it's a cloudy day or rainy day or whatever, exposure to sun or ultraviolet radiation is going to end up killing a lot of the virus within minutes, from my understanding that I've seen on all of the documentation on the internet right now and on television, different news sources. So spray it with the 151 proof alcohol or 70% alcohol, spray it, let it sit in your dash or let it sit on your rearview mirror, and just let it sit there and let it disinfect itself after you spray it and let it get some sunlight. So the only other thing that I can also say aside from all of that is for your own health, two things I know that are very good for upper respiratory health would be zinc, 50 milligrams, and also echinacea. Echinacea is very popular for people that when you feel like you're getting a little tinge of the cold. Coronavirus, COVID-19 is the same structure as the common cold, the virus itself. So, going up on some zinc, some echinacea, and also like recommended daily allowance of vitamin D. You don't want to go too high with vitamin D because vitamin D is an oil-soluble vitamin, so getting it too high can technically be toxic. So I would go at least with a recommended daily recommendation, which is like 700 or 800 IU's. I know for anybody that's like 60, 70 years old or older, it's recommended more like around 800 IU's. But all in all, this is how to do it. This is how to end up making the hand sanitizer that's more of a jelly type. As you can see, it's definitely a lot more jelly. And so this is a whole 16 ounces. Just put it together in just a matter of minutes. So good luck to you. Stay healthy, stay safe. Well, let's get through this virus. And I wish you the best. Thank you very much.